Good evening, Chicago. Welcome on into yet another week of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Man, I am excited for this one. We have got a ton to talk about. News has been breaking left, right, and center today. We've got stuff happening all over the city and in the nation, in the sports world. We've got updates on the Cubs and the White Sox being able to have fans as early as opening day. We have got an update on the Blackhawks. An all-time Blackhawk player retired over the weekend. We need to talk about Brent Seabrook and his impact on the team, and also the team in general. They had more positive news that came out early this morning. Somebody's coming back. Let's talk about that. I've been talking about it a couple of weeks now. We need to talk about DePaul and Northwestern's women's basketball teams, especially since today's International Women's Day. So we'll break down those two teams in anticipation of the women's tournament starting here soon. And then also, we are going to be breaking down and doing some hype up for Selection Sunday. This coming Sunday is going to be it for the college basketball season, and we are going to have some help previewing what everybody's bracket might look like and how we can go from there. This is going to be a ton of fun today. I am so glad that you are here to listen to it, and let's everybody buckle up. Let's have some fun. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Let's go. Once again, welcome on into Chi-Town Weekly. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your day or your week to spend some time talking about some sports in the best sports city in America. Before we go too much further, of course, we've always got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of, and that includes, of course, the shout out to our sponsor here on IE Sports Radio for this week, Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, or if you're doing well and you want to get to the next level, well, either way, give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give them a call. You can reach AO at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and AO are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. Follow them on Twitter at legacy_uncut or on Instagram at sims_uncut. And then, if you want to follow along with the station, of course, you can do that. IE Sports Radio. You can find us on Twitter at IE Sports Radio, Instagram at IE Sports Radio, Facebook, search IE Sports Radio, or just go to our website, iesportsradio.com. You can also follow along with this show on Twitter at IESRC. On Twitter, or if you want to follow along on my personal Twitter page, you can do that. It is at Adam_Karnick. And then we have a guest with us tonight, and I am, in all seriousness, I have been looking forward to this since day one. Tonight is episode number 30 for the show, a little bit of a mini milestone, and way back 30 weeks ago, I had this in my head. Now, you're about to meet Matt Garner, who he was on the show he was hanging out in the chat room with everybody last week, hanging out there. Matt is a die-town Chicago sports fan. If we wanted to, we could talk about Bears, we could talk about Cubs, we could talk about Blackhawks, till we're all blue in the face. But one thing that Matt does an amazingly awesome detailed job of every year is tracking bracketology. And then he comes out with his bracket every year, and gol darn it if it isn't right up there with what the committee actually comes out with. So I could not think of anybody better to have on the show as we get closer to Selection Sunday than to bring Matt on into the show and talk about college hoops. So Matt, welcome on into the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for saying yes. This was a ton of fun to set up and look at and go over. So if you're listening live right now, or you're saying, okay, what is this bracket we're talking about? If you quick go over onto the IE Sports Radio Chi-Town Twitter feed, I put it out there. I also put it on my own Twitter. You can find this bracket that we're looking at right now. So Matt, before we dive into the bracket itself, take us behind the curtain a little bit, without giving away too many of your secrets here. How do you come up with this bracket? What's kind of your formula that you use?
Well, again, thank you for having me on your show. This is awesome. But in all seriousness, I am a math teacher by trade, so this kind of came naturally to me. I've always been big in statistics. But what I do for the bracket itself is I use some algorithms that I've come up with, and then I also use what they call the NCAA evaluation tool. It's called the NET, and put all those little pieces of information together, and then just rank the team from 1 to 68, and that's where they fall. Personally, I try to make sure that my rankings are based on what the committee is going to decide, rather than what the quantitative stats and what the quantitative data is actually going to show too. So, there's a little bit of leeway and a little bit of play with that, with what I want to do and what the committee does. But the biggest thing with the whole thing is looking at quad 1 and quad 2 wins. That's where most of the factors come into play, especially for the bubble teams.
And what when you say a quad 1 and a quad 2 win, what does that mean?
There are 4 quads, obviously, and that's where the word quad comes from. Quad 1 and quad 2 wins are more quality wins. Those are the games that you play against an opponent that would most likely make the NCAA tournament. So a quad 3 or quad 4 would be games that you would be matched up against a team that wouldn't make the NCAA tournament. So it would be like if Illinois lost on the road at Appalachian State, that would be a quad 4 loss, as opposed to if they beat Ohio State, in the past week on the road, that would be a quad 1 win, because Ohio State's going to be the top echelon of the entire bracket.
And when they're deciding that, is that based on historical precedents, or is that evolving throughout the season? Because, like, for example, Duke, in a normal year, Duke is a lock to make the NCAA tournament every year. Yet this year, I think we'd all agree that it's gonna take a lot for Duke to get in. Would they still be considered a quad 1 victory this year, or are they looked at now more as a 3 or 4 because of the year they're having?
The word that I've thought of is it's very fluid. It is based off of this year's teams and this year's records and everything. So Duke would probably be falling under the category of a quad 2, because they're right on the edge of either making a tournament or not. So, they're still in the running with it, but it's not like the highest quality win you could have. Okay,
so that's cool then, that it is taking into account recency bias, if you will.
Mm-hmm. It's the whole season, but as later you go in the season, if you lose, especially to a team that's probably not going to make the tournament, there goes your chances as well.
All right, so let's dive into the bracket itself, and let's start. You mentioned Illinois. Let's start right there. You've got Illinois as a number 1 seed, which is there the huge week that Illinois just had last week, going on the road and winning in Ann Arbor, and then going on the road and winning at Ohio State in Columbus. Is there any way at this point that Illinois can't be a 1 seed?
Short answer, no. It would take something drastic. I'm reminded of an episode of The Simpsons where the baseball team in Springfield won the championship game, and Bart made the comment, goes, "Man, that Snipers All-Star game did a lot of good for this team." That's the only way I can see Illinois not actually being a number one seed at this point. Something has to drastically happen for them to not be in that position.
So getting blown out in their first Big Ten tournament game by Northwestern, for example, they might drop down then to a 2?
I don't even think it's going to be that drastic. I think it's going to take something more. I don't see a way that they're not going to get a number one seed.
So they really have nothing to lose, but nothing to gain in this Big Ten tournament other than pride of winning your conference.
I'd agree with that.
And then the Big Ten as a whole, you've got 9 Big Ten teams in this field, including, I believe we counted ahead of time, 4 of the top 8 seeds in this tournament are all going to reside from the Big Ten.
Just shows how deep the league is. I mean, from top to bottom, outside of, Northwestern, unfortunately, Nebraska, who hasn't been relevant for a couple of years, and then Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota at the start of the year was a tournament team, but losing their big center, Liam Robbins, for a long period of time, they've lost, I think, like 7 or 8 in a row. They're done. Indiana's going to be done. I mean, we could have had a potential of 11 teams in this thing.
That's
just shows how deep the league is.
That would be absurd. Have 11 teams out of a 68-team field to all be from one conference. That would be just absurd to contemplate. But yeah, looking at the conference, they're so dominant. So looking at this bracket that you've come up with here for Illinois, where they'd be playing Cleveland State as a 16 seed, and then getting either Loyola Chicago or Florida in the second round, and looking through, teams like Alabama would be the 2 seed in this bracket, and Kansas the 3. Who would you look at if this indeed winds up being the bracket? How likely then do you think Illinois would be to make the Final Four and maybe even the championship game?
Out of their bracket themselves, the only threats I can really see for them is honestly Loyola and possibly Alabama or Kansas. Depends on if they beat each other up or not. I mean, that's going to be the key. Alabama's a really good team, but they haven't been in this position for a very long time. They're a young team. It can be a problem, but Loyola's going to do more damage than what people think that they're actually going to do. I don't see any reason why Illinois can't get out of this region, and it really just depends on how Baylor plays in the other region too. See if they can get to the national championship game. Scott Drew's got a great team down there in Texas.
All right, and then I know that the mid-majors and the Missouri Valley Conference in particular is very near and dear to your heart. So let's talk about the Valley and let's talk about Loyola a little bit. So as we mentioned in this bracket that you're projecting, Loyola would be an 8 seed. They would get Florida in the first round and then in all likelihood would take on Illinois in the second round. Let's tell me about Loyola a little bit.
All right. I mean, if Loyola gets to the second round against Illinois, the phrase that I came up with is "sweet dreams are made of these." This is everything that Illinois basketball would dream of when it comes to the tournament, because you have Chicago's literally hometown team, and then the team that thinks they're Chicago's hometown team in Illinois. So that'd just be an interesting matchup. But Loyola I'm like you said, I am a mid-major junkie. I actually have a couple different players at a couple different schools in the Valley, so I've been really following Loyola more than anything else because of who they play and everything like that. But I'm telling you what, I'm seeing shades of 2018 again with this Loyola team. When they went to the Final Four, I mean, Krutwig was a freshman on that team, and now he's the Valley Player of the Year. He won most outstanding player of the tournament yesterday. And between him and Lucas Williamson and a kid by the name of Braden Norris, who made so many threes yesterday, he's a great three-point shooter. He's a great free throw shooter. He plays really good defense. I would be pretty fearful of whoever they match up with in the first round. So, sorry, Florida. You're going to have your hands full with this.
Yeah, and now this go around for Loyola, the Ramblers aren't going to catch anybody by surprise. They're no longer Cinderella. They might not be the heavyweight favorite to win the tournament, but they're not going to be sneaking up on anybody this year. Does that play to their advantage? What was that?
No one's going to take it away.
Yeah, I was thinking about this morning with this team, too. I'm reminded, Loyola a little bit reminds me of Butler from about 10 or 12 years ago when they went on their back-to-back Final Four appearances run under Brad Stevens. This feels to me like it has the potential to really kind of shoot off something, either the college as a whole or Porter Moser as a coach. Do you think Porter is going to stick around at Loyola, do you think, or will he suddenly be wooed by greener pastures?
The word that I've thought about this when I've been talking about Moser and everything is the word loyalty. I mean, he had offers to go to Boston College last year. He had offers to go to, I believe, Massachusetts last year. And he goes, why would I ever leave this program? So with him being at a mid-major school, recruiting's on the rise. Loyola is a great program. It's a great city. It's a great part of town. All these other factors. They would have to back up a huge dump truck full of money for him to even consider going anywhere else at this point. But, I mean, jobs like Minnesota is probably going to be open this year. And frankly, Indiana might be open this year too. I mean, if they pay him, if the price is right, he would go. But honestly, I don't see Moser leaving something that he's built from the ground up just on a whim.
Well, that's encouraging for fans of Rambler basketball because he's building a good program there. It's a heck of a program that he's got going there. And then they beat Drake yesterday for the Missouri Valley Championship. You still have Drake making it in as one of your last four in. So the Valley is deep enough to merit an at-large bid.
Statistically, yes. My concern, however, about Drake's case is that there's still another week of college basketball to play, and they cannot do anything to change their fate because of all the different major tournaments and all these power schools coming in at the last second trying to make their case for the NCAA tournament. I think the committee is going to look at that and say, hey, well, they're down their best two players. Do they really deserve a bid, even though they started 17, 18-0, and then they couldn't even win their own conference championship? I mean, that's some questions that the committees are going to have to answer. But to me, they beat Kansas State on the road to open the season. They dominated the Valley up until, injuries took place and everything. And it's not like they got blown out yesterday either. I mean, they were down by, 12-14 in the second half, but they made a run. So, personally, I think as a statistician, should Drake make the field? Absolutely. As a fan, absolutely. Does the committee agree with me? That remains to be seen. So, this is going to be the hardest week of waiting for this team.
And just this whole field in general, this has been such an odd year for college basketball as a whole. I mean, we're looking at this. You've got a little over 70 teams mentioned on this bracket because we've got the last four. We've got, of course, the regular field plus the byes plus the play-in games. First four out, next four out. Nowhere on this list do I see Duke. Nowhere on this list do I see North Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nowhere on this list do I see Kentucky. I mean, these are some of the tried and true, you can put them in every year. to be in the tournament, and instead we're seeing teams like Loyola as an 8 seed, or BYU as a 6 seed, or Alabama as a 2 seed. I mean, if we're talking Alabama as a 2 seed, I'm assuming there's only 3 other teams to be talking about, and we're talking about a gridiron, not a hardwood here. So does that, for this year, does that benefit the mid-majors, or does that hurt them because of the recency bias of the major tournaments, the major conference tournaments right before the dance?
There's a lot to digest in that sentence, Adam, but at the same time, Duke and Kentucky's problem is that the tournament is going to reward good teams. I'm sorry, Duke and Kentucky are not tournament teams. They're average, they're mediocre. I don't see how they can get in unless they win their conference championship. And I guarantee you that Kentucky is not going to win the SEC. I guarantee you Duke is not going to win the ACC. It isn't going to happen. That's the only way they're going to get in. And yes, you're right. It is an anomaly because when you think of the NCAA tournament, you think of Duke. I mean, Duke has like the 3rd or 4th largest tournament streaks in the country. And that's going to probably come to an end this year because, again, mediocre teams are going to get mediocre results. I hate to say it, but as far as Duke's concerned, as far as the actual tournament itself, love them or hate them, I think you know where I'm standing on Duke, but I'm not going to actually say what my position is on Duke. But love them or hate them, you have to have them in the tournament if you want any kind of ratings to happen as well, too, because you're going to either want to watch Duke play, you want to watch Coach K do his thing week in, game in, game out, or you want to see them get the pants beaten off of them like they have in years past in the first round. So love them or hate them, that's where the ratings are going to go. So, I mean, that might be a factor in this selection committee's thing, too. I mean, the selection committee, all about money and all about ratings. So if the ratings say that Duke is going to be in the tournament because more people are going to watch it, I can understand where they're coming from a marketing perspective, but from a basketball and good for the game perspective, Duke doesn't belong. Not this year. Absolutely not.
All right, a couple more things for you here, Matt. Before we let you go, there was a person asked on Twitter. They had commented that you have Utah State and Louisville as a play-in game for an 11 seed, while then later you have Michigan State solidly in the field as a 12 seed. Talk about how that got set up and what that kind of means, how we should view these teams, what we should think about these schools heading into the tournament.
Okay. I know we talked off the air about this earlier. I actually did a little bit more research. How I based my brackets off of was how the official brackets came out between the different regions. I did some research a little while ago, and they actually made that play-in game a 12 seed, not 11 seed. So I actually made a mistake on that.
Yeah.
Based on that. So that's something I do have to correct. That was just based off the information I had before. And it's not like this is my full-time job or anything like that. So that's something that I have to correct. So the person that commented on that is right. Michigan State would move up to the 11, and then we would shift everything down to the 12 seed lines for those playing games.
All right. Okay. And then looking at this, so we've got 1 seeds of Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Michigan, and then I'll give the 2 seeds as well. We've got Ohio State, Houston, Iowa, and Alabama. Looking at this tournament field, how do you feel it shakes out? Who do you think ultimately comes out being the champ?
I know the popular pick is going to be Gonzaga because they haven't lost anybody, but to that point, they haven't really played anybody like anybody else has either. That's a mid-major program. It's a really good mid-major program, but their strength of schedule is not going to do them any favors coming into the later rounds. Honestly, I can see Illinois in the final. I think if Michigan State's healthy, I can see them in the final. I'm not too convinced about Iowa for some reason. There's just something about their eye test that I don't like. But as far as number 2 seeds, I can see Ohio State going far. Baylor has the talent to win it all. I just don't know how good they do in the tournaments a lot of times, because they've been always rated high, and then they never get anywhere past the Elite Eight. So history may not be on their side. But if Baylor can break through the Elite Eight, I think they're going to have a really good chance to win the whole thing.
All right. Well, of course, there will be tons to watch. The tournament is the ultimate. There's a reason they call it March Madness. It's the ultimate. You cannot script it in college sports. Selection Sunday coming up at this Sunday. Matt, thank you so much for hopping on. This was a blast. Thank you.
This was awesome.
All right. That is Matt Garner, and we'll see. Maybe he'll be able to make it back on with us again sometime. I think we'll have to figure out a way to make that work. All right, we are going to take a quick break here on Chi-Town Weekly, and then when we come back, we've got a couple of women's college basketball teams in town to talk about. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League to the World Cup to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. All right, well, that was a ton of fantastic hoops talk on the men's side. Now let's transition over real quick and talk about some hoops on the women's side. A week from today is Selection Monday over for women's college hoops. And by the way, if you want to break, before we go too much farther, if you want a almost instant reaction to Selection Sunday, this coming Sunday, be sure to check out Fast Break here on Sunday nights on IE Sports Radio, where Davidson will be breaking down everything to do with the Selection Sunday for the committee, what they decide to go with on the men's side. That's that is again Fast Break. Davidson Crooks and Dentarius Locke, they will be breaking down all things from Selection Sunday. That is this coming Sunday at 7 Central. But then over on the women's side, a week from tonight is Selection Monday, and we've got two teams here in town that are most likely going to be in. I'm looking at ESPN's Bracketology right now. The women's tournament, just like the men's side, where they're going to be doing it kind of an expanded bubble. They're doing everything in Indianapolis and the surrounding area. On the women's side, everything is going to be happening in San Antonio and that surrounding area, so they can try to keep everybody safe and healthy from COVID, as we're nearing the end of this, but we're still not there yet. So we've got two area teams to be looking at. DePaul, which is done with its conference tournament. The Blue Demons got eliminated over the weekend in the Big East quarterfinal. They went into overtime against Villanova, against Villanova, but lost 78-72 in overtime of that game. That's kind of a damper on the Blue Demons. They should still make the tournament. ESPN still has them making it in as an 11 seed overall in the tournament, but this is a team that was ranked fairly highly in the middle of the season and has kind of struggled of late. DePaul, including that loss on Saturday, lost 4 out of its last 5 games. The only win in that time coming on the road at Providence back on Saturday, February 27th. They're having a little bit having a little bit of a bumpy road as we get ready to get into the tournament. Still should make it. They should comfortably make it in there, but as a lower seed than perhaps we would have originally thought. And then the other team, the other local team, Northwestern. Northwestern was ranked during a good chunk of the season, but then also fell on hard times. Northwestern just stormed out of the gate, winning its first 4 games and 6 of their first 8 to start the season, but then also started to struggle and have some problems, winning just twice in their final 6 games. They haven't, the Wildcats haven't won since February 24th at Illinois. They've lost their last 2 games since then, hosting Maryland, losing that one, and also finishing up the regular season at Ann Arbor against Michigan, losing that one, both against currently ranked opponents. So the Wildcats, they're now they still have their conference tournament in front of them. The Big Ten tournament starts this week, both for the men and for the women. So Northwestern can obviously help themselves a little bit with a good tournament showing. Obviously, the automatic bid is still up for grabs there in the Big Ten, unlike DePaul's situation, where DePaul is at the point where they're at complete mercy of the committee. They lost their chance to get the automatic bid. Northwestern could still get the automatic bid. It's going to take, obviously going to take a lot, as you have to get through the Big Ten. In the Big Ten, just like on the men's side, the Big Ten is strong in basketball. That's a strong basketball conference, both on the men's side of things and the women's side of things. So we'll see where the Wildcats, what they can do, how they can wind up. Looking at it now on ESPN, I love these custom region names, since obviously everything's going to be done in one spot. I'm loving the customized regions. For the women in San Antonio, you're going to have regions like the Alamo region or the Riverwalk region. I love that. I think that's so cool. It's a very geeky and nerdy thing. I'm sorry, sue me. I can choose my own things to geek out about. Thank you very much. I don't care if it's silly to you or not. Right now, Northwestern would still be considered a 7 seed, so a little bit higher of a seeding than DePaul. Some of that comes, I would think, just from a little bit stronger and stiffer of a conference overall, playing in the Big Ten. Northwestern finished 5th overall in the Big Ten this year with an 11-7 conference record. Looking at DePaul, the Blue Demons finished 14-8 overall, 4th in the Big East. So taking the conference into account a little bit there for the 2 women's teams in town. But hopefully we'll be able to have some good news next week on Selection Monday. I believe Selection Monday occurs after we go off the air, so won't be able to have instant reaction by any means, but still we'll definitely keep an eye on that and look at that and preview that as we get ready for the women's tournament as well as the men's. All right. We are going to take one more quick break, and then coming out of that, we are going to change gears entirely. Brent Seabrook was an all-time Blackhawk, and he, unfortunately, as is the reality for many, many athletes, both professional and amateur, he was not able to go out on necessarily his own terms. Let's go back and talk about Brent Seabrook and take a look a little bit at the Blackhawks. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up,
up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Were you listening to a great game on USRN, but then the Wi-Fi crashed in the final seconds? Or do you simply want to listen to the best calls we here at USRN have to offer? Well then, you need to go check out our Audio Boom page. It holds a collection of our best calls that you don't want to miss. How do I get there, you ask? You can download the Audio Boom app and look up Ultimate Sports Radio, or simply go to audiobook.com/Ultimate Sports Radio. And as always, thanks for listening and making USRN one of the most talked about sports networks on Mixler.com.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Faces Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
Wrestling fans in the podcast world, you are in the right place to listen to the right show, the premier show in the professional wrestling podcasting world. This is Ring Rambling Radio, and you are listening to one of the co-hosts. I am Martin Sandoval, a.k.a. the SoCal Saint, along with my two co-hosts, the lovely Felicia and my boy Matt. Yes, every Saturday or every other Saturday morning, you can listen to us, the premier wrestling team, giving you the premier wrestling news, rumors, updates, event discussions, everything that has to do with professional wrestling. You're in the right place. IE Sports Radio presents Ring Rambling Radio. Don't miss it, because it's just too sweet.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. All right, got a lot of news to go through in this final segment of the show. Before we do, though, of course, we need to give one last shout out to our sponsor, Legacy Financial. Last year was a tough year. However, staying positive, keeping your faith, and continuing to work hard is the goal. If you're in a financial struggle at the moment and you need some help, or if you're doing well and you want to get to the next level, either way, give them a call. Also, if you're looking for a new opportunity to work for yourself and earn more money part-time, give them a call. You can call AO at 510-928-2104 to book your appointment today. Andrew and AO are just two people on a mission to help families build a legacy. Follow them on Twitter at legacy_uncut or on Instagram at sims_uncut. That is Legacy Financial. And if you are interested in either promoting yourself or a business, maybe you've got a side job or a project that you want to make people aware of, and you think that IE Sports Radio might be able to help you, well, you're right. We can. We have got shows every day of the week in markets like, of course, Chicago and Indianapolis and Southern California and Pittsburgh. All across the country, we've got shows. We can hit your target base. We can help you out with that project. You can reach out to Larry. Follow him on Twitter at _LB53. Larry is the head honcho of IE Sports Radio. He can absolutely help take care of you and get your project off the ground, give you that extra boost that you need. All right. So a lot of news to get to here in this final segment, and I wanted to talk first about the Blackhawks. Brent Seabrook was one of the stalwarts. He was one of the mainstays of the Cup dynasty from 6 to 10 years ago when they won 3 in 5 years. Seabrook and Keith were an amazing tandem at the blue line for the Hawks. And Seabrook, unfortunately, towards the end, it was right about the middle of last year, he went down with an injury. He only played 32 games in the 2019-2020 season. Did not come back for the tournament in August and hadn't played at all this season. He had hoped that maybe he'd recover enough to come back and play at the start of this truncated season, but unfortunately he aggravated a new injury right before the start of the season. He decided over the weekend to retire, that it was in his best interest for himself and his family to hang up his skates and turn the page to the next chapter of his life. Seabrook is everything you would have wanted to have in a hockey player. The accolades: first round draft pick, 14th overall, played from the Hawks from 2005 to officially 2019-2020. Appeared in over 1,100 games. You can look at the stats: 103 goals, 361 assists, averaged nearly 22 minutes of ice time per night. I'm looking at some of these numbers in the midst of his career when the Hawks were going on their gangbuster runs. 24 minutes and 43 seconds of ice time per night on average. That's just a massive, massive workload. And constantly a finalist for the Norris Trophy or other accolades for great defensive players. There's three things I'll think of with Seabrook. 2 were plays, and 1 was just an attitude. I think he'll forever be remembered in the 2013 Cup run for hitting 2 huge game-winning overtime goals. And I guess I'll do them in reverse order of which I think. I think the first one would be the biggest, when he hit in the second round against the Red Wings, Game 7 overtime, scored the game-winning goal to advance the Blackhawks to the Western Conference Final and kicked the Red Wings out of the Western Conference and sent them off to the Eastern Conference. That, to me, that's the one big goal I will always remember Seabrook for. It was, frankly, bull that game went into overtime, but I'll digress. I don't want to talk about an 8-year-old game and get angry about the refs, but it went to overtime, and Seabrook made sure that it ended the right way for the Hawks. And Matt Garner chimes in the chat that was the goal that propelled them. There was no stopping the Hawks after that goal. And I agree. Yes, that was the one that cemented these guys are going to be the champs this year. Just get out of their way. And then in that Stanley Cup, with the Hawks down 2-1 to the Boston Bruins in a very critical Game 4, he again hit the overtime winner that tied up the series, and the Hawks didn't lose a game after that. So those will be the 2 biggest goals he will probably be remembered for. But the other thing that I will remember from Seabrook, he wore the A on his sweater for the assistant captain. And of course, Jonathan Toews was the captain for while he was there. But Seabrook was one of those guys, one of the few guys on that roster, on that team, that could come up to Toews and put him in his place. It didn't need to happen very often. It didn't happen a lot. Didn't need to happen a lot. But when somebody needed to go up and get a message across to the captain, Seabrook was the guy. There's a story I've heard told several times that I don't remember the game exactly, other than I know it was a playoff series where Toews was rattled that the opponent was constantly, they were able to get under his skin, and Toews took multiple penalties in that game. And finally, while he was sitting in the penalty box, Seabrook got to him and said, "Hey, look, whatever it is they're doing, you got to put it behind you. We don't need you in this box. We need you out there on the ice. That's how you're going to hurt these guys, not sitting in here in the penalty box." And it worked. Toews turned it around. The leadership that Seabrook always brought to the team is something that goes beyond measurement on a stat sheet. And that's something that the Hawks are going to miss. So thank you to Brent Seabrook for an amazing career, an all-time Blackhawk. When they're able to have fans back in the stands and they're able to start up some of their events like their One Last Shift, I look forward to seeing Brent Seabrook come out for One Last Shift and get the ovation he deserves from the United Center faithful. One thing that the Blackhawks might not be missing for much longer, though, Kirby Dach came out and skated at practice for the Hawks today. You might remember Doc got hurt playing for the Canadian junior hockey team right before the start of this regular season. He was attempting to take a check and just bad position. He shattered his wrist. He was originally told it was a 4 to 5 month recovery. That was 2 months ago. He was out skating at practice today. And Ben Pope, who's been on the show a few times, he actually commented on Twitter today that he would have listed Doc as a full participant at practice today. Now, Coach Jeremy Colleton did say, pump the brakes. Yes, he's out there skating. Yes, he's going to start traveling with the team. We are going to be very cautious with him. He's going to be ready, and then we're still going to hold him back. So don't necessarily expect to see Doc, certainly not on this road trip that they're about to embark on, this 2-week-long road trip that they're about to do. But he was out skating. We might see Kirby Doc play possibly yet this regular season. And if you can add him in to a team that has surpassed expectations, I know they only took 3 out of 6 points against the Lightning this weekend, but if they can add him in, and if he can gel with these other guys out there with a team that's already kind of overproducing based on expectations, the Hawks could be very, very interesting come the postseason if they're able to get there. Some other news throughout the city today. The Cubs and the White Sox found out that they will get to have fans at their respective home openers. Now, it's just 20% capacity, so a little over 8,000 fans at each. And the teams have said that they are going to give season ticket holders first priority to get there. But as early as opening day, we will see fans in the stands at both Wrigley and at guaranteed rate. That is exciting. Great job to we're getting to the end of this pandemic here. It is so wonderful. We're not there yet. Everybody keep doing what you've been doing. Keep wearing your masks. Keep social distancing. Keep playing it safe. But there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And this summer, it sounds like it's going to be possible to go out and catch a baseball game. That is exciting news. All right, one other show is going live on IE Sports Radio tonight, and that is Bases Loaded. And you definitely want to, you want to check them out every week anyway, but you definitely want to check them out tonight because they are going to be doing previews for both the American League Central and the National League Central tonight. So get your White Sox fix, get your Cubs fix from spring training with Bases Loaded tonight at 9 Central. You can catch them on YouTube or on StreamYard so that you can watch them or then catch them as a podcast after the fact. So be sure to check those guys out. Thank you to Matt Garner for hopping on, not only in the chat, I see you talking there, but then for hopping on the show and talking hoops with us tonight. That was a treat. I loved it. It was so worth building that up and setting that up to do. Thank you all to Larry. I saw you in the chat tonight. Thank you for all the work you do here at IE Sports Radio. It is much appreciated. And thank you for listening, whether it's live on the air tonight or catching it as a podcast later in the week. Thank you. I know you've got tons of choices out there to get your sports. I love that we are able to talk back and forth some sports. All right, again, Bases Loaded coming up tonight at 9 o'clock. You can catch all the other shows throughout the week as well. Check out the website for all those details. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy. We will talk to you next week. This is Adam Karnick for IE Sports Radio. See you later.